Welcome back to the deep dive. The promise of this show has always been about shortcuts.
Right. Taking a stack of books and research that you frankly just don't have time to read.
Exactly. We extract the absolute best nuggets of information, and usually that means we're tackling something scientific or historical. But today we're trying something a little different.
Yeah, bit of a pivot.
We are taking a shortcut through something that a lot of people feel is, well, a bit impenetrable.
We're talking about poetry.
Hmm.
And I could already hear some of you reaching for the skip button.
Don't do it. Really stick with us. Because here's the thing. Poetry usually feels like homework, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like something you were forced to dissect in 10th grade while staring at the clock.
Yeah. But the source material we have today uses a completely different framework. We are looking at Alfred Lord Tennyson's masterpiece, Ulysses, but we aren't just reading it. We're running it through the lens of the PoAItry project.
And just for clarity, even though it's spelled PoAItry, the project guidance says to pronounce it simply as poetry.
Right. And their whole mission, their core mission, is to use AI not to write the poem, but to act as a visual partner.
Which is a crucial distinction.
It is. We aren't asking an AI to just spit out a stanza. We're using a specific visual methodology to explore what they call the unimaginable landscape of metaphor.
And to do that, the project uses this really specific intentional color palette: deep indigo and electric cyan.
Why those two colors specifically? It feels very, I don't know, cyberpunk?
It's a deliberate clash. So deep indigo represents the intellect, the weight of literature, the old world.
Okay.
And electric cyan represents technology, the spark of insight, the future. So when you see those colors together in the visualizations, it signals that we're bridging the gap between a 19th century text and a 21st century mind.
I really like that. It's almost like putting on a pair of augmented reality glasses to read a classic text.
Exactly.
And the theme for this deep dive, the thematic pole, as the sources call it, is fortitude of the will.
Right. In the PoAItry system, every session has this thematic pole. Sometimes it's something soft and internal, like hospitality of the heart.
But fortitude of the will is external.
Yes. It's about resilience. It's about grit. It's the refusal to collapse when everything around you is just crumbling.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when I think of poetry, I usually think of softer emotions, romance, nature, melancholy. Why is fortitude, which sounds almost military, the necessary theme for this specific poem?
To answer that, you have to completely separate the poem from the textbook. You have to look at the man, Tennyson, at the exact moment he sat down to write this.
Because the context changes everything.
It changes everything. If you think this is just a poem about an old Greek guy wanting to go sailing, you're entirely missing the point. This wasn't a creative writing exercise. It was a survival mechanism.
See, this is the backstory that I found wildly surprising in the research. I always pictured Tennyson as this bearded, old, Victorian sage. But he was young when he wrote Ulysses.
Very young. He was 24. And he was in the middle of a complete mental and emotional collapse.
And this is because of Arthur Henry Hallam?
Yes. Hallam wasn't just a casual friend. In all the biographical sources, he's described basically as Tennyson's other half. They were at Cambridge together.
They were really close.
Incredibly close. Hallam was actually betrothed to Tennyson's sister, Emily. So he's a best friend and a future brother-in-law rolled into one.
Wow.
And then Hallam goes on a trip to Vienna. And out of nowhere burst blood vessel in the brain. Dead at 22.
22. I mean, think about where you were at 22. You think you're invincible. You think you have decades to figure things out. To have your cornerstone ripped away like that?
It utterly destroyed Tennyson.
How?
The sources describe a long and unhappy period of apathy.
Apathy. Just total numbness.
Right. He withdrew from the world. He stopped writing. He fell into this deep, dark depression where nothing seemed to matter. And here is the part that usually gets left out of high school English class. It wasn't just grief. He was also financially ruined.
Okay, I have to stop you right here because I saw this in the notes and I genuinely thought it was a typo. The Patent Decorative Carving Company.
It sounds like a joke, doesn't it?
It really does. What was it?
It's completely real. Tennyson, in his grief and his confusion, sold a small estate he had inherited. He took all that money and invested it in this venture called the Patent Decorative Carving Company.
What even is that? Like making fancy chairs?
It was an early industrial attempt to automate wood carving for furniture, like machine-made, intricate wood designs. He thought it was the future.
Let me guess. It wasn't.
It wasn't. The company failed spectacularly. He lost everything.
So let's paint the picture for the listener. You're 24, your soulmate best friend is dead, your sister is heartbroken, you've just blown your inheritance on a robotic woodcarving scam, you're broke, you're depressed, and you're living with your mother.
Precisely. And that is the exact moment he writes Ulysses. He isn't writing from a position of strength. He's writing from the absolute bottom of a well.
The poem is his attempt to climb out.
Yes. It's his personal will to live. It is the very definition of fortitude of the will. He is forcing himself to believe that life is still worth living.
That reframes the entire thing for me. It's not a story about a mythological hero. It's a desperate pep talk to himself.
Exactly.
So let's get into the text itself. We start with Ulysses, the character back home in Ithaca. The Trojan War is over. The Odyssey is over. He won.
He's the king.
Right. He should be on a beach somewhere enjoying a retirement cocktail.
You'd think so. But the very first stanza tells us he is utterly miserable. He calls himself an idle king. He's sitting by a still hearth. Everything is stagnant.
And he's pretty brutal about his situation. He says he's matched with an aged wife, which
is a tough way to talk about Penelope after she faithfully waited 20 years for him.
Yeah, very tough. And he calls his own people a savage race.
It's harsh, isn't it? He says they hoard and sleep and feed and know not me.
Honest question, though. Does that make him a jerk? I mean, these people waited for him, and now he's home, and he just thinks they're a bunch of consumers who only want to eat and sleep.
It certainly makes him difficult. But remember the lens of the 24-year-old Tennyson here. This isn't really about a king hating his subjects. This is about a creative mind terrified of stagnation.
Ah, I see.
Hoard and sleep and feed. That is a description of a life without purpose.
Yeah.
It's the apathy that Tennyson was violently fighting against. If you just exist to eat and sleep, are you really alive?
That's the fortitude kicking in, the refusal to settle for just existing.
Exactly. Ulysses says, I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees.
Here's where it gets really interesting. To the lees, that's wine terminology, right?
Right. The lees are the sediments at the bottom of the barrel. If you drink to the lees, you aren't just lightly sipping the good stuff.
You're draining the cup.
You want the bitter, the gritty, the textured part of it. You want the whole experience. He says he has enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with friends and alone. He doesn't just want happiness. He wants intensity.
And then we get to the son, Telemachus. This is the part that always feels like a backhanded compliment to me.
It's a brilliant study in contrast. He introduces Telemachus and calls him blameless. He says he is centered in the sphere of common duties.
He's decent?
Decent, yes. Not to fail in doing the soft work of offices.
Decent, blameless. It sounds like a performance review for a middle manager. Telemachus is fine. He files his TPS reports on time.
It's exactly that tone. But here's the key insight from the sources. Tennyson isn't actually mocking Telemachus. He's acknowledging that the world needs Telemachus.
Someone has to run the kingdom.
Exactly. Someone has to do the taxes and pave the roads. Ulysses says, he works his work, I mine.
So it's a division of labor. Telemachus provides the administrative stability, so Ulysses can provide the what? The drive?
The exploration. The drive for the unknown. You can't have a society of only Ulysses, or it would be pure chaos. But you can't have a society of only Telemachus, or it would be totally stagnant.
That makes sense.
Ulysses is acknowledging that his specific kind of fortitude drives him away from safety, and that's okay.
Okay, so we have the context. The grieving poet and the restless king. Now, let's actually apply the visual partner methodology. The PoAItry project asks us to visualize this journey using 5 specific lenses. This is where we need to really use our mind's eye.
Right. We're going to move from the barren crags of Ithaca to the sounding furrows of the sea, and we'll use these lenses to color the scene.
Let's start with lens 1, the literal. The source calls this the cinematic lens.
So if we look at the opening of the poem through the literal lens, we are seeing high contrast reality. We are on the barren crags of Ithaca.
I'm picturing sharp, jagged rocks, slate gray sky. It's definitely not a tropical paradise.
No, it's harsh. It's cold. The text mentions the scudding drifts and the rainy Hyades, which is a star cluster associated with storms vexing the dim sea.
Vexing the dim sea.
Visualize that deep indigo color here. It's heavy, it's dark, it feels like a prison. This is the physical reality of an island that feels like a cage to a man used to the ringing plains of windy Troy.
It sets the mood perfectly. It's claustrophobic. So now let's shift to lens 2, the abstract and emotional. This is the silhouette style.
Here, We strip away the physical rocks and the water. We focus on the minimalist shapes of the ideas. We're looking at that famous metaphor of the arch. All experience is an arch where through gleams that untraveled world.
The untraveled world. So how do we visualize that specific metaphor?
Imagine a massive, dark silhouette of an archway. Minimalist geometry, it's solid. But through the middle of it, you see this blazing, undefined light representing the untraveled world.
That electric cyan creeping in.
Yes. But here is the trick, the optical illusion of the poem. He says, the margin of that world fades forever and forever when I move.
Wait, think about the physics of that for a second. If you walk toward an archway, you go through it. But he's saying it fades.
He's talking about the horizon. As you walk toward the horizon inherently moves away from you. You can never actually reach the untraveled world, because as soon as you travel it, it becomes the traveled world.
That sounds exhausting, honestly. Isn't that a nightmare, to chase something you can never physically catch?
For Telemachus, yes, that's a nightmare. But for Ulysses and for Tennyson, that is the entire point. The goal isn't to arrive. The goal is the infinite recession.
To keep moving.
The abstract lens shows us a geometry of infinite recession. It's a glowing doorway that pulls you forward forever.
Okay, I'm with you. It's the pursuit itself. Which brings us to lens 3, the metaphorical and playful. This focuses on motion and energy.
And this creates a counterpoint to the static arch. We look at the image of the sinking star. Ulysses says, to follow knowledge like a sinking star, beyond the utmost bound of human thought.
But stars don't really sink, do they? They set.
Exactly. But the word sinking implies motion. It implies a vibrant, energetic gravity. Visualize a streak of stylized light diving beyond the horizon line. It's not falling and crashing. It's leading the way.
The source material contrasts this with the feeling of being stored. He says it's vile to store himself away for 3 suns, meaning 3 years.
Think of the energy difference there. Being stored is potential energy that is basically rotting.
Right.
A sinking star is kinetic energy, it's velocity. Lens 3 is about that desperate need for speed and movement. He wants every single hour to be a bringer of new things, not just a dull repeat of yesterday.
Now lens 4, the cultural fusion. This is where we zoom out and look at the historical context.
This is critical. We have to remember. This is a poem about an ancient Greek hero written by a Victorian Englishman. We need to see that Victorian overlay.
The Industrial Revolution, steam engines, the British Empire.
Right. Source 03 calls this a moralizing age, but also an age of triumphant persistence. So when we look at the sea in the poem, Tennyson calls them the sounding furrows.
Furrows. Like a farmer's field. Like plowing a field.
Exactly. An ancient Greek hero would see the sea as a god, or a monster to be appeased. A Victorian sees the sea as a field to be plowed, to be worked, to be mastered.
Ah, that's a huge shift in perspective.
Through the cultural lens, we don't just see a wooden boat. We see the vessel puffing its sail. We see the intellectual ambition and machinery of progress.
It's the deep indigo of the ancient sea mixed with the electric cyan of Victorian technology.
And the text mentions the pilot. This connects to Tennyson's later poem, Crossing the Bar, which the sources mention. It's the idea that there's a work of noble note that may yet be done.
Even though they are old.
Yes, they can still contribute to the progress of the world. It's an industrious, very British kind of heroism.
Which leads us to the final lens, lens 5, the mirror, the modern reflection. This is where we turn the camera around.
Yes, this is the photorealistic slice of life. It's the poem manifesting right now in the room with the listener.
So it's not a king in armor anymore. It's not a Victorian in a top hat. It's you, the person listening to this deep dive right now.
It's the learner persona. Maybe you're feeling burned out. Maybe you feel like you've peaked. Maybe you're just tired looking at a new project or new book. The mirror lens reflects a refusal to rust unburnished.
Rust unburnished. I love that line. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use.
Think about a sword. If you leave it on the wall, it rusts.
Wow.
It looks old. But if you use it, if you strike it against things, if you grind it, it stays shiny, stays sharp.
Wear and tear is better than preservation.
Tennyson is telling us exactly that.
That hits hard. It's the argument against preserving yourself. Don't save your energy, spend it.
It is the ultimate argument against that apathy that was threatening to swallow Tennyson whole. He looked in the mirror and decided he would rather burn out than rust out.
So we've walked through the grief, the patent decorative carving disaster, the narrative, and we've visualized it through these 5 lenses. Now, according to the PoAItry Master Guidance, we need to take the reflective pause.
This is the mandate. We let the images settle. In the mind's eye, we see that integrated glyph.
That's the symbol of the project, right? A stylized quill with a neural network nib.
Yes. It perfectly connects the old text to our modern brain.
And we listen to the concluding movement of the poem because, honestly, this is one of the greatest pep talks in the English language.
It really is. Ulysses gathers his crew, his mariners. He says, "Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world."
His goal is to sail beyond the sunset until he dies.
And he admits the truth. He says, "The much is taken, much abides."
That is the line that acknowledges the grief.
He isn't pretending everything is magically okay. He isn't pretending he's 22 again. He says, "We are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven.
We're older, we're slower, we're scarred.
That which we are, we are."
One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will.
And that leads us to the final line, the thematic pole itself, the thing Tennyson wrote to literally save his own life.
To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
It's absolute defiance. It is a fundamental refusal to let tragedy be the end of the story.
You know, it's so easy to read that line on a coffee mug or an inspirational poster and think it's just fluff.
Yeah.
But when you know that the guy writing it was broke, grieving, and terrified, it just lands differently.
It becomes a desperate, necessary act of will. He realized that death closes all. He says that explicitly in the poem. He knows the end is coming for everyone.
But he decides that something ere the end, some work of noble note, may yet be done.
Exactly.
And that is where I want to leave our listeners today. We've talked about how Tennyson turned his personal agony into a universal anthem of resilience, using these visual lenses. And we often talk about shortcuts to knowledge on this show. But maybe the real shortcut here is using Tennyson's experience so you don't have to go through the despair yourself to learn the lesson.
You don't have to wait for a tragedy to start moving.
So, if we hold up that mirror lens to your life right now, what is the newer world you have been hesitating to seek because you thought it was too late? Or because you thought you weren't ready?
That is the question. Because if a grieving, financially ruined 24-year-old could find the fortitude to write the ultimate anthem about resilience, you can probably find the fortitude to start that project you've been putting off. Death closes all, yes, but your work of noble note is still waiting.
Don't rust unburnished. Go find your sounding furrows. Thanks for diving in with us.
Keep seeking.